Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge Town Council meeting of November 26, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor O'Clair.
Absent.
Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor DePietro.
Absent.
Councillor Jovan.
Present.
Councillor Manna.
Present.
Councillor Morales.
Present.
Councillor Nash.
Excused.
Councillor Steves.
Present.
Have a quorum. Agenda item 3, consider and accept the Town Council minutes of Monday, November 5th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Councilor Steves, errors, corrections, omissions.
I sent several of them to you and Madam Secretary over there. Okay. So I'm not going to detail every single one of them. Okay. So I've already sent them in. And I don't know if anybody else wants me to send them to you. I will. But
Any further? Councilor Daniel.
In Council's Forum, my name is Daniel, not Danielle.
yeah, that was one of the ones I got.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Steves, for taking the time to make those corrections. All those in favor as corrected by the corrections Councilor Steves has submitted? All those as amended?
As amended.
Yes, as amended. Yep. Opposed? It's all present. Subcommittee reports. General Government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did have a brief meeting on November 20th, where items number 10 and 11 came out of that meeting for the agenda, and also number 12, which came up as a new business item because we had forgotten to do it some time ago. We also talked at length about the 2017 seal coating contract process and correcting those kinds of issues. And I will raise the issues, the specific issues for 10 and 11 when we get there.
Thank you,
We do not have anything scheduled at the moment.
Thank you. DPW Council DePietro is absent. I did get an email I saw today saying that there's a meeting scheduled for December 4th. I just need to confirm that. I'll confirm that with you. We have a meeting on the 3rd, so I'll confirm that on that date because I cannot be present at that meeting. I have a prior commitment, so we'll see if we have to reschedule that or not.
Well, I can take it if you can't.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Steve. EHS, Councilor Nash. Councilor Nash is away. Do you have anything on EHS, Councilor Daniel, as Vice Chair?
We had one meeting, and there's one agenda item, number 13, that revolves around something that was handled then.
Okay. Is there any meeting scheduled that you're aware of? EHS? No, right?
Tentatively, there's one for early December.
Okay, thank you. Plan and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had no meeting since our last town council meeting. We do not have one planned now, but we're looking at doing one probably sometime in December before Christmas that will deal with the CDBG grant funding. But I'll get into that later on during Councilor's Forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Manna.
Thank you. I did have a meeting last week. Was it last week? I think it was the night that we had the snowstorm. And there were some agenda items that we did not get to, so I have a tentative scheduled date of December 13th at 6:30, I believe. And that's where we're going to discuss the hiring process for the fire department and such, and policy for the IOD.
Which, for people that don't know, are injured on duty. Correct?
Yes, sorry.
All right, thank you.
Injured on duty. Thank you.
All right. Not everybody will be familiar with IOD. So, anything further? Okay. Agenda item 5, Chairman's announcements. A couple announcements for tonight. First, I'd like to announce, or again announce, that the Southbridge Lions Club and the Southbridge Police Department Cops and Kids program is sponsoring a toy drive. They're collecting toys from November 7th to December 21st. The flyers, this is in partnership with a lot of great local organizations. in the past, it had been done with the Marine Corps League. That is no longer the case here in Southbridge. So these two organizations, the Police Department, the Lions Club, and the Cops and Kids program, took it upon themselves to do this toy drive. All toys will benefit all the local families. The drop-off locations for toys, so please, if you have it in your heart to give toys to local children, locations are at the Southbridge Police Department, the Southbridge Fire Department, the Southbridge Credit Union, all branches. That is one of our big partners in this as well. The Southbridge Town Hall, the Sturbridge Police Department, Jacob Edwards Library, McNuck's Marketplace, Big Bunny Market, Harrington Hospital, Cedar Street Grill, Cedar Street Cafe, Avellino Restaurant, and the Duck. So a lot of great local businesses that are partnering for this. To apply for families out there, we announced it at the Holiday Visions holiday gathering this weekend. There's an application process. All you need to do is go to the Southbridge Police Department and fill out an application. It's very simple to do, so please give to this drive, and if you're in need, please go down to the police department and fill out the application. We're looking to help the children of our community. Second, received an email today from the Southbridge Receiver's Office that they are canceling the Southbridge School Committee meeting for December, which was scheduled for December 11th. I've met with the receiver on my regular monthly meeting, and we've discussed scheduling a follow-up joint school committee town council meeting, which will be in the first part of hopefully January. At that time, we're going to begin discussing budget and what the thought process is, so that as the town prepares for its budget cycle, we can maybe discuss what our priorities are going to be and how we can move forward. Had the opportunity to attend an event at the Southbridge High School that was done by the Cops and Kids with the police chief, the deputy chief, with a young man that came in and gave a presentation on a bad choice that he had made and the ramifications. I certainly hope that the students at Southbridge High and any student that listened to that message took it to heart about how no matter what your stage in life is, that if you make bad decisions, there are consequences to it. But I'd like to thank the police department because it was a great message. Some work to do on the school side, but we'll work together as a community. And I think that's the important thing, that in my meetings with Dr. Villar, that it really is going to take us as a whole community to improve the culture and climate in our schools, because it certainly does need a lot of work. But things like the Cops and Kids, the message that we have on that is on the flyer. It says, "Together we can make a difference." And we have to continue that message throughout the community, that together we will work to bring solutions to the town, because like I told the receiver after after the event and some issues that I had seen, that I don't want to just complain about it, that we have to work together for those solutions. So I look forward to working with the receiver in the upcoming year. And again, together, we can make a difference, and that was evident, and I'm sure my fellow councilors that were present will also comment on the Holiday Visions holiday event that took place this past Saturday. It truly, I've lived in Southbridge my whole life, and I've been to a lot of events, and we always hear the negative in town, but I'd have to say that that Holiday Visions, and we do owe a debt of gratitude to all the volunteers that do that. And I know former Councilor Clements leads that, and she really needs to be commended, because it was truly a community event. And I guess I'll go on the sappy side. I'm a big Hallmark movie guy, and I watch the Hallmark movies, and truly, you know, you always see those events on TV, and you had that sense of feeling in the community. It was very, very humbling, and I look forward to working with Councilor Clements, or former Councilor Clements, Denise Clements, and all the group that I can't thank enough. I know former Fire Chief Laporte spent a lot of time fixing a lot of damage that was done, taking down trees that the TBW had taken down, and volunteered a lot of time. The Southbridge Fire Department was there helping out. It was truly a community event, and together we can make a difference, and I look forward to the rest of this year and the start of a new year together with these fellow councils that I have to bring positive changes to the town. So that is all I have for this evening. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no announcements this evening.
Thank you. Just to follow up one announcement. There was an announcement that Casella was not going to pick up on the Hazardous Waste Day. That has been canceled for this weekend. Just know that that is not sitting lightly with this council, that we've taken steps to communicate to the appropriate parties that we settled this lawsuit in good faith, and they, part of the contract was that they will provide those dates, and it was, we will continue to get more information out as it becomes available. But as of right now, the hazardous waste disposal day for December 1st has been canceled by Casella due to logistics. It was nothing more than logistics. However, that is not our problem. It's not the town of Southbridge's problem. Oh, thank you. I did have that in my packet. I know you see my notes. Thank you, Councilor Adams. One other thing as a follow-up, and I will have more information at next week's meeting, but we are continuing as to the follow-up to Casella. Thank you for prompting me on that. We had talked about when we did the settlement, setting up an advisory subcommittee to the town council. We are working on the formulation of that. I anticipate we'll have to take a vote probably next week to establish that as a subcommittee of the council. Council Adams right now will be tasked with heading up that committee. So at this point, I believe it's, we're looking at a 9-member committee, 3 councilors at this point, 2 employees of the town, and 4 town representatives. That right now is subject to confirmation by this board, but we really do want to take all these issues head on. So we'll have more information next week, probably develop some kind of motion for the council to move that forward, but that's where we're at today. And thank you, Councilor Adams, for reminding me and taking the point on this. Okay, thank you. All right, presentation. Chief Woodson, we have New Hope Incorporated. Chief Woodson and his advocate from New Hope. And I do know, for the information to the public, we did have somebody else that was going to be here from New Hope, but unfortunately, due to the scheduling, was unable to be here. So the chief had called me and said, do we go forward? And absolutely, he'll get the information forward. So thank you, Chief, for being here tonight.
All right, if I could, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Town Manager, members of the council. Just quickly, Mallory Germain could not be here tonight. She was supposed to be, but she had another commitment. I'm certainly not here to speak on behalf of New Hope, more in line with our advocate from New Hope, that our department, how they're going to impact the community. In 2010 into 2011, we had an advocate working for the department, working in the community every day. She followed up on every single domestic violence call that my department responded to, which can be quite overwhelming, to be quite honest with you. We were one of the only departments doing it at the time, and I can't even tell you how many citizens had come up to me when I was holding the rank of lieutenant, and they had said, you know, I can't believe it, I got involved in a domestic last night, and someone actually called me. A woman from your department called me. She asked me to come to the police station to meet with her. They didn't ask me to come to my house. They didn't want to embarrass me, nothing like that. And they went to court, gave them rides to court, processed paperwork, helped them out with restraining orders, helped them out with living arrangements, things like that. Well, unfortunately, that program was a huge success, but the grant money ran out. And like everything else, everything runs on money. So when I took over as chief 2 years ago, and I really wish Marcia Zamansky was here with me tonight, because she played a crucial role in getting this done. I met with her and I said, hey, how come we can't go back to like that 2010, 2011 year when we had an advocate working at our building? I offered up space. We had some office space. We offered up a computer. And she said, you know, that's a good idea. Let me see if I can put in for the funding. So over the last year and a half or so, we have been working very hard to get this done. And that's why I sent that email to the council back in October saying how it's a win-win for the community, because I could stand here and talk about it all night, but the impact that a domestic violence advocate has in a community, you can't even put a price tag on it. Right. So my understanding is now this grant is a 2-year grant, so at least it's not just a 1-year grant. We have 2 good years, hopefully, and in 2 years we'll kind of see where we are. We'll assess the situation, apply for another grant, hopefully keep this going. We've started already. Elizabeth Fish is here tonight to my left. She's the advocate for New Hope. She had told me she does not want to get up here and speak, but I kind of wanted the council and I wanted the people in the audience and the people at home watching on TV to get to know her, to see her face, to recognize her. She'll be in our community. She started in mid-October. She's varying hours, but it's normal business hours usually. And what happens is she'll come in the morning, check our police log. She has access to the public log. Any domestic violence incident that occurred, she follows up on. If it's in an area she doesn't feel comfortable in, if it's felt like a home visit's needed, our police officers will go and help her and assist her in any way possible. She's kind of doing double duty between here and Webster. That's part of the grant. So she splits splits her time accordingly wherever it's needed. Last week, from what I'm being told, it was a really busy week in the town of Webster, so she spent the majority of her time there. But I anticipate, unfortunately, with the holidays coming and things like that, she'll be spending a lot of time in our community. So again, Ms. Fish, she's here tonight. It's going to provide a great service to the community, and I welcome her.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Steves?
Thank you, Chief. I'm just curious, how many domestic violence calls do we actually get a year? Do you know?
A year, several hundred, varying degrees.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Some are more serious than others, but in this, with Ms. Fish, every single call is followed up on.
Good.
Our dispatchers are instructed, anything that comes in, we have a certain call number,
Yeah.
a call title. Ms. Fish can identify it easily by going through the log, and she follows up on it. So no matter how serious or how insignificant it may seem to some people, we follow up on everything.
Well, that's the way it should be, because
Absolutely.
Especially the insignificant ones, ironically, are the ones that, if you can grab them quickly, you can prevent them, hopefully, from becoming significant.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Councilman first, and then Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to say thank you. I remember in 2010, 2011, when
Yeah,
you
me
had
too.
that advocate and then you lost her, and that was unfortunate for our community, but it's very good to see that we have that back. So the
Yep.
town needs it, so thank you.
And it's important to know too that a lot of times the victims don't want to talk to the police officers. They're intimidated by the authority, and they'd rather talk to a female advocate, which is what she's trained to do. So it's a wonderful thing for the town.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Chief, first of all, thank you for getting this done. And Ms. Fish, welcome. And we want to thank you for what you do for a living. Thank you.
Fred?
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, one last thing, No Shave November is coming to an end very soon. I don't want anybody to think that I'm just growing out this gray beard because I think it looks good, because it does not. But the men who work for the department, last year was our first time doing it, this year is the second. We all donate $50 to grow out the beards for the month of November. We donate it to a charity. Last year we did to the Cancer Society. This year I'm not sure where it's going yet, but it's to a good cause, and we've raised a couple $1,000 this year doing it. So thanks again for having us.
Thank you. Chief, thank you for bringing the advocate forward. I know throughout the years, domestic violence, the response to domestic violence has certainly changed. It has put a lot of the onus on the police departments for the follow-up. That the old days, we went to a domestic, maybe gave them a blue card that said, here's your rights,
Right.
and that was it. Now there's, here's your rights, here's shelter information, here's all that. So I know that this service is desperately needed. I know out in the towns of Holland, Brimfield, and Wills, they've had an advocate for a number of years. It started way back when I was a chief. Back in 2003, and I've been out, and they still have their advocate. I don't know how they're doing the funding, but they have their whatever they call it out there, abuse program. So I think it's great. Unfortunately, Webster had too many uses last week. It's a good thing for the town of Southbridge, but it's bad for the those unfortunate victims of domestic violence. So I'm sure that you're providing a valuable service. Look forward to working with you and providing you some support throughout the year, whatever we can do on a council side to provide support to the police department to make this a success.
Well, I appreciate it. I know the men and the women in the community appreciate it, and we look forward to working with New Hope for years to come, hopefully longer than 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Agenda item 8, Citizens Forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the Town Council? State your name and address on any item that's not on the agenda.
I didn't give this to you, guys. So, hi, I'm Maureen Doyle, 771 Lebanon Hill, and I have some agricultural information for people. The Massachusetts Farm Bureau Federation has their annual meeting this coming Thursday and Friday, November 29th and 30th. And if you're interested in going, you can register on their website, which is www.farmbureau.co/annual meeting. And the second bit of agricultural information I have for you is the 32nd Annual NOFA Mass Winter Conference. And the 2019 theme is Food as Medicine, with the keynote speaker John Kemp, if you know of him. And that's happening on January 12th, 2019, and that's all day at Worcester State University. I'm not sure how much the Massachusetts Farm Bureau's conference is, but I know that the NOFA workshop, the early bird special is $89 if you do it if you register before December 15th. And, and their website is www.nofamass.org/events. And they also have a Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the Town Council?
Good evening, Town Council. Kevin Buxton, 28 Columbus Avenue. Maureen took care of the Agricultural Committee, and I'd just like to emphasize this time of year, once we get the other side of Thanksgiving comes, all the hectic purchases of Christmas, and just would like to emphasize the fact that it's a great time to put a little thought into our recycling efforts. Online shopping is a big boom now, but of course every box comes inside a box. Emphasize the fact that cardboard, wrapping paper, if it doesn't fit in your standard in-house recycling, maybe try to plan something a little bit different this year and put a bigger box in the corner next to the tree for your recycling. Really try to work together to make things better as far as our recycling efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buxton. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council? Anyone else? Seeing no one? Agenda item 9. Vote to confirm the appointment of Jeffrey Clark as a full-time firefighter EMT for the town of Southbridge upon the successful completion of the Massachusetts Physical Abilities Test, PAT, when administered. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Chief?
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Manager, Council Chair. This evening, we're bringing forward probably the last of our 24 filling one of our last of 24 full-time positions within the next night here tonight in regards to hiring Jeff Clark from Leicester. Mr. Clark has a little bit of a background. He currently works for Griffin Electric as an electrician. He is also on the Leicester Fire Department and also the EMS Department as active members. He is currently a certified EMT basic, and he possesses his firefighter 1 and 2 through the Call of All recruit class of 2014. Jeff's personal and professional references were checked with great responses. Background checks done by the Southbridge Police Department had no significant findings. At this point, I would really like to get this last position filled, and I recommend Mr. Clark to be offered an EMT firefighter position within the department.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Congratulations.
Agenda item 10, vote to transfer $5,000 from Town Council Reserve Account number 1.132.5781 to Town Accountant Overtime Account number 1.135.51300 to cover extra hours worked by the Assistant Town Accountant in connection with munis conversion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Councilor Steves?
Yes, that was, we discussed that at some length on the last GenGov meeting. The basic, unfortunately, I have not had a chance to finish up the minutes yet, but, so I'm kind of running from memory. The basic gist of the discussion was that this money came up as a necessary, unfortunate addition to doing the munis conversion, because as the process went along, people inside of Town Hall didn't come to realize how much extra time it would take our people to do it, in part because the contractor basically didn't tell us and started sending us people who didn't really know what they were doing. So we were concerned about that and wanted to talk a little bit about checking into the idea of whether or not the state is aware of what these people are doing. But unfortunately, we still kind of need to get this project done, and so the $5,000 came up as a necessity to pay for Karen's extra time, and it'll kind of be rolled over by Ron had said that he was planning on having it so that Karen, since Karen is salaried and doesn't get paid overtime, she'll end up taking some extra time off at some point during the process, and this is primarily going for Yolanda, isn't it? Okay.
Completely.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, so all present. Agenda item 11, vote to authorize the council chair and vice chair to send a letter to the Massachusetts Energy Facilities Siting Board, on behalf of the town council, reserving the town's rights to be interveners in the Charlton LNG siting process, docket number EFSB 18-04, DPU 18-96, under 980 CMR 1.05 and Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 10.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Council Steves.
Yeah, I threw this forward because I had gone to the last to their public hearing in Charlton about 2 weeks ago, and I noticed that there was nobody else from Southbridge that was there. I was actually there as a reporter, but there was at least one representative from Sturbridge's Board of Selectmen who said he was there speaking as a citizen. There were several representatives of various branches of town government in Charlton for obvious reasons, and the whole point of this process was that this is kind of a situation where I thought it was kind of important to bring this forward because of the fact that they're talking about building a large natural gas storage facility. We're talking 1 million gallons here, up on 2 possible sites. One is off of Route 20 going toward the Sturbridge line, and the other is actually right next to the Millennium Power Plant, either of which are less than a mile from our town line. And both of them, one of them, the Route 20 line is pretty much right on top of McKinstry Brook, and the other one is right on top of Katy Brook. So either way, there's so many different ways that these facilities could potentially have an impact on our town. And the most notable one, for me anyway, was the idea of the fact that whatever happens at this facility, if something should happen, will end up involving our police and fire and other crews as hazmat materials in terms of mutual aid and a variety of other services that we routinely provide back and forth between us and Charlton and Sturbridge and so forth. And so I thought it was important for us to get at least set aside our rights to participate in this process, and we can figure out if we need to do it in terms of legal representation. We do need to still figure out whether that would be an issue or not. But I figured sending this at least keeps the door open and keeps our kind of place in line to make sure that we have a seat at the table. Does anybody have an interest in me reading the letter? Since I think it's just the rest of us who
I'll have the letter.
read it, so. This is what I'm writing. I'm not going to bother reading the whole addressing stuff. But the woman's name was Catherine Cedar, who's the presiding officer for this process. And I say, Dear Ms. Cedar, we, the Town Council of the Town of Southbridge, hereby petition to intervene as a party to EFSB's process regarding docket number EFSB 1804/DPU 1896, the Northeast Energy Center LLC proposal to build a natural gas facility in Charlton under 980 CMR 105 and MGL Chapter 30A, Section 10. As an abutting community less than a mile from both of NEC's proposed locations, we believe this project could have a significant impact in our town in various ways. Those include, but are very likely not limited to, the fact our community frequently provides Charlton with mutual aid for police and fire and hazmat and related incidents. The dangerous nature of the materials and activities proposed for this site could very easily require our emergency services to need additional training, equipment, and/or personnel to provide such aid that we cannot afford, and any significant incident there would have an impact on Harrington Memorial Hospital in our town. Additionally, both sites sit very close to brooks, McKinstry and Katy respectively, that flow through significant portions of our community en route to the Quinnebog River. Were this facility to have some sort of chemical release that impacted said waterways, it would very likely end up affecting our residents. Since our community already has notable health and environmental justice concerns, we wish to make sure this project does not add to them. Please include us among those who receive all documents and other communications regarding this process by sending them to.
Any questions on that? Council Manna?
Thank you. I appreciate Councilor Steve's initiative to bring this forward with a letter. I don't agree with the last paragraph, though. Specifically, the last sentence, the last full sentence, since our community already has notable health and environmental justice concerns, we wish to make sure this project does not add to them. I would leave that out. I agree with everything in here but that. And it's not only environmental, so to say, if there's a chemical leak. Mm-hmm. What if there's an explosion? Well, yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, that's a concern too.
Absolutely.
So I agree with your letter and the intent, but I just don't agree. That doesn't sit well with me, that last sentence especially. If that paragraph was worded differently, then I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. And if it was inclusive of everything, not just should there be a chemical spill. This is natural gas.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't think natural gas is going to seep in. Well, it could, I guess, but I think they're tanks, like they're tanks that they're going to be stored there. So I think there's a greater risk of other things other than it seeping into a brook. There could be, but I just, that since our community already has, that doesn't sit well with me. That's a perception of some, and I don't want to label it such as. Am I making sense?
I'll go to Council Steves and then Council.
Okay, you are. However, I was actually, when I was writing that, I was thinking in terms of like the fact that we have documentable issues with asthma and other things. I assume you're referring to the landfill, and I'm actually not.
No,
I'm referring to some of the other issues that have been reportedly, like we have. I mean, and this doesn't have anything to do with a facility like this, but for example, we have for years we've had one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in this town, which isn't directly related to anything like this, of course, but there's a whole slew of other issues. We have high asthma rates. We have high cases, high reports of cancer, high reports of all kinds of other things that aren't necessarily directly related to a project like this by any means. But I just want to see that we don't want to add to the issues that we already are facing. But on the other side, I would like to point out that I did talk to Ms. Cedar, and she mentioned that they are very flexible in terms of what municipalities can say to get involved. And quite frankly, she said that the mutual aid issue is usually seen as a winner. Because once we open the door with one issue, during the process we can raise any other issues that we feel need to be raised. So I'm not too concerned about whether we remove that last line or not, to be honest with you.
Can I just respond to him?
You all set? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
All right. Go ahead, Councilman.
It wasn't, Councilor Steves, it wasn't about the landfill or anything, and the asthma, a lot of that has to do with the quality of home life.
I
So,
don't disagree.
I mean,
I
you
agree
can't,
with you.
I would support this fully if
agree.
this paragraph was changed, if that was taken out, or if the whole paragraph was taken out. I mean, or something else put in, I would support it fully, but I just, with that last paragraph, especially that last sentence, I can't support this. And that's all, thank you.
So would you be okay with just taking out that last sentence?
I would support it
All
if
right,
that whole thing was
let's go to
taken out,
Councilor Adams
so.
first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I agree with Councilor Manna. I think we just need to keep to the facts of why we want to write this letter, why we want to be involved, and remove that last sentence. That's what I recommend.
That's fine.
Okay. Everybody in agreement to remove that last sentence? Okay. Any further discussion on this letter? And again, we did have a really good conversation about it, and this was really given the fact that we had to respond by November 30th to say that we wish to be considered an intervener. So this is just for us to be considered an intervener. Doesn't mean that they will give us that status, but at least it gives us the right to say that we have some concerns, that we wish to be heard further, so it reserves our right so that we don't miss the boat going down the years. Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just Councilor Steves, thank you for putting this together. Thank you.
Okay. So all those in favor with as the letter amended, and that gives us the authority to sign that on behalf of the council. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Thank you.
And that was amended, correct?
Yes.
And we'll
Yep.
see that letter come through?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Steves.
No problem.
And I'll make sure that the signed copy will get into the packets as correspondence for next week. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, great. Agenda item 12, vote to accept the donation of 2 bilingual signs for Oak Ridge Cemetery, which were donated by Denise Clements. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Councilor Steves?
Yeah, that came up as part of new business at the last GenGov meeting, simply because, honestly, we had just forgotten about it. She had brought them up here to a council meeting, at least a month and a half ago, and presented them to us, and then we forgot about it, and it kind of got dropped. It fell under the radar screen, so we just wanted to formally say thanks and legally accept the donation.
Thank you. Councilor Adams?
I do want to thank Councilor Morales, too, as well.
Oh, yeah.
He was most important in that area, so thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize for neglecting to put that on the agenda. It was just one of those things that fell through the cracks. We certainly love all the donations that we get, and we appreciate all the support that individuals give to our community. And I apologize on behalf of the council for not thanking that individual, and we will make sure that we get a letter out of thanks as well. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Vote to approve the transfer of $25,000 from account number 6785 Landfill Reimbursement Fund to account number 1.0512.5117 Board of Health Salaries and Wages Part-Time to support the part-time temporary recycling coordinator position.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Oh.
Too late.
I think you best.
We already
What's
voted.
Huh?
We already voted.
Well, I'll accept comment. Go ahead, Mr. Buxton. Mr. Buxton, I'm not going to stop anybody from speaking. I mean,
No,
we took a vote, but if you have a comment for this, that's...
Well, it's kind of late, but I just wanted to get some information on how long the position has been vacant and the reimbursement funds that these are coming from, where those are coming from, and is there a time limit on the temporary position, or will this end up being a revolving position that'll just, in the past, there was outside consulting of Green and Brown Consulting, which was used $30,000 at a time and just maintained a position. And I'm curious if this is coming from the same source of funding. It's usually referred to as non-tax dollars. And I was wondering if Andy could clarify.
I'll have...
And while I'm up here, one other is, because it is a reestablishment of the position, what exactly, actions this person is going to be involved with, and how is it measurable and going to be supervised or established, whether it's the Board of Health or the Department of Health, Health Department that'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so to the questions raised, how long is this position for? This position was actually voted at the last council meeting, and shame on me for not bringing the whole package in one shot, so I'm sorry to trouble you twice. This is a position that I proposed as a temporary position. Miss Anna Smith is going to be assigned to this, and what it does is it will keep her in a position between the time we stop taking trash until the time that they start capping the landfill. There would have been a brief layoff period during that time. So I can't give you a precise how long it is going to be. I suspect early December through probably mid-April when construction starts next year. The funds for this are coming out of an account that have to be dedicated to recycling efforts. So this money is not on the tax, the citizens' taxes. It's actually, some of it is recompense from the, there used to be a recycling program that was abandoned, and Casella reimburses the town a certain amount. Plus, one of the conditions of the site assignment required recycling, and if there wasn't recycling, penalties would be put on, and those penalties had to be used for recycling efforts. So the monies are coming straight from that account. The emphasis on this, it's not actually refilling the old position. We rewrote the position a little bit. The emphasis is going to be on educating for recycling. Previously, all efforts for recycling were improve the amount of recycling, improve the quantity of recycling, and unfortunately, we've pushed it so far, we, not just Southbridge, but the industry, that too much garbage is being put in with the recycling. So now the emphasis on this position is going to be to improve the quality of recycling. So there'll be mostly educator position, and towards the end, we hope to move into a little bit of enforcement on quality of the recycling that we see. As I expressed to the council 2 weeks ago, this is a temporary position. I see it as a pilot position. If we see significant improvements, I may be coming to the council. There is additional monies in those recycling efforts, so I may be coming to the council to continue the position beyond what we've proposed so far. But initially, this is just a pilot program to see if we can get improvements. If this position doesn't have a positive effect on the quality, then I don't see any reason. I'll try to seek other ways to improve quality rather than continue the position.
Okay. Thank you for your...
Were there other?
Yeah, one other follow-up is the situation with Anna Smith over the years, over the course of 10 years, has overseen all the monitoring and supervised the operation of the landfill. Now, once they stop receiving trash, it still is a landfill. Mm-hmm. And who operates as a third independent party to oversee continued monitoring, and that's it.
Yes.
This agenda item, Mr. Chair, thank you. It doesn't.
Do you want me to respond
I'll
to that?
determine whether it does or
sorry.
not. Thank you, Council Manor. I'll allow the answer because I'm interested in just who's monitoring for educational purposes, but just limit it very quick, please.
Okay. There's actually 2 monitors right now. There is a DEP order that an independent engineering company come in 2 hours a day anytime that trash is disturbed. So 2 hours a day, their company called CEC is overseeing the landfill. But I expressed again 2 weeks ago, I do not see her only duty as doing recycling. Part of her duty will be split. I estimated 4 hours after talking to Miss Anna today. I estimate up to 1/3 of her time will still be spent at the landfill, reviewing documents, reviewing test results, touring the landfill to check for erosion and stuff. So I believe up to, although I'm hoping it's not this much, but up to 1/3 of her time could be spent doing recycling, landfill efforts. These we will charge back to Casella as part of the oversight of the landfill, as part of Condition 23.
As part of that 25,000, we would charge back.
We wouldn't be paying it, if she, I set aside 25,000 with the assumption that it was the full value of her time, but if 1/3 of her time is spent overseeing landfill, that will be reimbursable through Casella.
So this 25,000, you may not use the whole 25 is what you're telling me?
I do not
Potentially.
think I will.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
optimistic I won't, although I'm trying to work with Karen to include her benefits. Obviously, the town is going to have to continue her health insurance, and we're going to try to include her benefits in this 25,000 somehow.
Okay.
At least that's what
Thank
we
you.
were discussing the other day.
That'll be a different conversation. Any further discussion?
We have
Huh? What? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just through you. We already voted on this. There shouldn't be
I
any
know,
more
I'm just asking, is there any
discussion.
more questions?
Okay,
That's what I'm
I'm
asking. We already
just-
took a vote. Thank you. Are there any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The motion carried. Thank you. Agenda item 14, vote to accept the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security's Office of Grants and Research, Homeland Security Division, a grant in the amount of $56,300 to the Southbridge Fire Department for a tow vehicle pickup truck with utility body.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Chief Norman?
I'm unprepared. I forgot my notes out in the hallway. So I can recap this. This grant started about 18 months ago through Central Homeland Security. We get that organization that meets in Worcester gets an allotment of federal funds every year. And of those federal funds, there's many projects that are doled out to be donated to towns to allow those towns to use those resources. And this F-550 pickup truck was one of those resources that was added to their repertoire last year. Oh, here's my notes. In 2002, the Homeland Security Council funded, through the federal government's funding source, 3 MCI trailers. Now, MCI trailers are called mass casualty incident trailers. They're filled with extra Band-Aids, longboards, some communication devices. At that time, all 3 trailers were located in Brimfield, Sterling, and Oxford. The town of Brimfield decided not to continue to work with the trailer and inspect it and do checklists on it. So the town of Southbridge in about 2010 received that trailer, and we've been doing that trailer, taking care of that trailer for the last couple of years. Along with the original purchase of these 3 trailers, 2 of the towns received tow vehicles to tow that trailer and any other state or federal trailers in our region. So that vehicle, I approached Homeland 18 months ago to get a vehicle purchased for us to use for the trailer, and also use that same vehicle for operations of the fire department on a daily basis. As long as this vehicle is available for towing that trailer, we can accept the vehicle at hand as it sits today. So the vehicle is here. It is available for approval and appointment for us to take on. I really think this would work out really well for us. This vehicle is a $60,000 vehicle. It will be replacing a 1999 Ford, what we call our service truck, with really no cost other than insuring it and putting plates on it. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So, Chief, the 1999 Ford, that's the pickup service truck?
Yes.
Now be coming off the road?
Currently, right now, I'm going to reassign it to the deputy chief. He does not have a vehicle for operational uses at all. The fire department has never had a deputy chief's vehicle. So at this point, we're going to keep that on the road, and he is going to use that to what he needs to be doing around town and business meetings and meetings elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 15, vote to accept the FY 2019 State 911 Training Grant and EMD Regulatory Compliance Grant in the amount of $28,872.92 to Southbridge Police Department with a start date of October 29th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
I apologize, Councilman. I should have deferred to you on the first one. Do you have any comments on this one since it went through PPP?
No, I don't have any comments. I believe the chief is here to explain, and my minutes will be all ready by the end of the month. Thank you.
No, I'm just saying it went through PPP. It was
Yeah, it
voted
did go
out
through PPP.
favorably.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chief?
If I could again, members of the council, Mr. Town Manager, the compliance and training grant is essentially money that's used to train our dispatchers throughout the year. Every fiscal year, you have to complete 16 hours of in-service training per dispatcher. We have 6 full-time dispatchers. We have numerous per diem dispatchers. They all need this training. This also covers the training of new personnel, which we've been having a hard time recruiting to fill dispatch positions. A lot of good candidates, not many of them are trained, so this grant will help us complete all that training.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Agenda item 16, vote to accept the FY 2019 Traffic Enforcement and Equipment Grant in the amount of $11,000 to the Southbridge Police Department, subject to the regulations governing highway safety projects and grant management requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Chief?
If I could again, members of the council, Mr. Town Manager, this grant is a bit unique over the years. It used to be several years ago, 10 years ago or so, every department would just automatically get this money. Now there's certain benchmarks that you have to meet, and I'm pleased to report that our department consistently meets these benchmarks. This is essentially the click of the ticket grants or extra police personnel to write moving violations. This is the drive sober or get pulled over campaign. This is also going to pay for yield signs that we plan on putting in at the Rotary as soon as this grant money gets approved, and we can purchase those signs and get those up and running. Flashing yield signs, we've had a lot of violations at that Rotary over the last several years. Seems like people from out of state are not aware of that you have to yield when you come into the Rotary. I'll leave the state alone. But anyway, the yield sign flashing might make it a little bit easier. So that's what this grant's going to be used to purchase.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you. I just need to say that the yield signs are going to be solar powered?
Correct.
Okay.
I left out the most important part.
Yes,
I apologize.
you did.
Yes.
Solar. Good old solar. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Agenda item 17, vote to accept the FY 2019 PSAP and RECC support and incentive grant in the amount of $57,452 to the Southbridge Police Department for reimbursement/disbursement of funds under the State 911 Department FY 2019 PSAP and RECC guidelines grant. Is there a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Chief?
Again, Mr. Chair, this grant essentially pays for us to have dispatchers on the desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As all members of the council and town manager know, we are working towards transitioning to 2 dispatchers on the desk for at least 16 hours during the peak periods. This will also pay that. And it also helps us holiday coverage, overtime coverage, extra coverage like, say, the night before Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, and things like that, Memorial Day weekend, so we can have additional dispatchers working.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Chief. Thank you for all the grants. Appreciate it. Agenda item 18, vote to approve the stated town manager goals and objectives as developed between the town council and town manager Ronald St. Angelo. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, just as a point of information, we started these goals and objectives back in September, I believe. We've been working on them throughout the months. Several meetings, our last meeting being 2 weeks ago at a special council of the whole meeting where we discussed all these topics. There's nothing new in the outline. There was different areas of focus, goal statements, fiscal management, infrastructure and asset management, communications, economic development, and strategic planning. We've had very lengthy discussions about the goals, the objectives, also some discussion about day-to-day activities and how they fit in. At our last meeting, we had met for a while, and then it was my decision to ask a few councilors just to pin down and get these dates, target dates, put into this document in conversation with the town manager. So I'd like to thank Councilor Daniel, Councilor Adams, Councilor Nash, and Councilor Steves for participating in that and getting this document to a final presentation for us here at the council tonight. We have, we're late in the year to get this done, so my goal as a council is this would be the working document as we go forward in the next 7 months, and then we would work at the beginning of the spring to develop a blueprint for the next council that comes in, so that it's kind of tough when a new council comes in, you have to start from scratch. So we want to try to leave, my goal as chair would be to leave a blueprint for the next sitting council to at least have a jumping off point. So thank you very much for the work that was done by my fellow councils. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Any further discussion on it? Any comments by my fellow councilors?
Yep.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. First of all, thank you, fellow councilors, for doing this. Thank you, Councilor Daniel, for taking the lead and actually putting it all together and spending a few hours working hand in hand with everybody, agreeing, disagreeing, but we figured it all out. Also want to thank the town manager, participate in his old goals and objectives, educate us on a few things that we weren't aware of, also for dates and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate, Ron, your time and energy in this as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Dana?
Yeah, I just want to point out that along with these goals being established, we'll be looking at the evaluation process as well.
Thank you. Councilor Steve?
I was going to say.
That's what you were going to say? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Motion carries. Councilors Forum, Councilor Daniels. Start with you tonight. Go on the other end.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Jovan. I'd like to thank former Councilor Denise Clements for all the work that she did in putting on the holiday spectacular that we had this past weekend. It was very, very impressive, echoing Councilor Chairman Jovan's comments earlier this evening. I also want to thank the DPW as well for the work that they did in putting in the tree, sprucing up the area, helping with the lights. They shouldn't be left out, and I want to make sure that they're complimented as well for the work that they did. I want to thank Bob Clements for his careful driving. Denise Clements had asked me to, had invited me to participate in the parade, and I said, well, I wouldn't be able to do that. I have my grandchildren. And she said, well, bring them along. So I show up here at 3:30 in the afternoon with 5 grandchildren under the age of 8. She puts us on a float with 3 inflatable snowmen and asks her husband to drive us through town. Needless to say, keeping 5 squirrels in check was difficult, but made much easier by Bob and his wonderful driving and his careful driving. It was a great experience for my grandchildren being in the parade and also down on the common. There was a lot of activities. There were a lot of activities for the children to do. They loved it. And I know that one of my grandchildren woke up at 4 in the morning on Saturday morning asking when it was time to leave to go to the holiday festival because they were so excited about it. So it was a grand experience, a grand day overall. If townsfolk didn't get down there, you really missed something, and you should put it on your calendar for next year. It's really a wonderful event, and I can't say enough about it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to reiterate, again, thank you, Southbridge Holiday Vision, Mrs. Clements, her family, because I know they spent a lot of time there, friends, volunteers, fellow council members, Councilor Manna, for all that you've done for that event itself. I got to see Olivia the other day. I didn't know she dressed up as an elf, so that was pretty cool. Last thing is, a couple weeks ago, CDBG coordinator, if people aren't aware, this is the grant money we received from the state to work on certain areas of our town that are designated. A few weeks ago, DPW and the CDBG coordinator met and started working on the fiscal year 2019 grant, and they tried to figure out what they thought the vision of the town should look like as far as utilizing this about $825,000 that we'll be receiving. Last week, I met with myself, DPW director, town manager, CDBG coordinator, economic and planning director, and we sat down for about an hour, hour and a half, and discussed some of their plans or some of the plans of the CDBG coordinator and the DPW that they're looking forward to the fiscal year 2019. CDBG grants. We discussed multiple options. Some made the cut, some didn't. I also know that because town councilors, residents of this town want to partake in where this money should go, what it should be spent on, I'm going to set up a P&D subcommittee meeting before Christmas where the public, fellow town councilors can sit down, voice their concerns, voice their ideas, and voice some of their goals for this money in fiscal year, or for the fiscal year 2019 grant funds. I'm looking at doing it around 7 o'clock in the evening so everybody can attend the best they can. Also, we're looking at doing it for about an hour and a half videotaped as well. The reason for the hour and a half is to get all those ideas out there. If they can't work or if the funds don't go to a certain area, that way the CDBG coordinator can explain it to the residents and town councilors. If there are residents out there that cannot make it to that meeting, it'll be posted obviously, cannot make it to that meeting, they can send me an email or give me a phone call and ask me or give me their ideas, and then I will get back to them as well. But at this point in time, that's all I have, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Morales?
Thank you, Chairman, through you. I just have a few items to talk about. So first of all, I would like to thank the Holiday Visions group, former Councilor Clements and her wonderful family for doing such a great job. Also, I like to watch Hallmark movies this time of year, so it did have that Christmassy home feeling. So thank you very much. I would also like to thank Senator Ryan Fatman for the $50,000 he was able to obtain for the Southbridge Center here in Southbridge. Also, I would like to know if I could have permission to, I know last year was brought to general government about the one-side parking through the winter, so I'm wondering if we could bring that back up and talk about it to see if there's any ideas or different ways the town can move around that parking band.
Okay.
Just wondering if you guys can reach out or...
Would that be better for my agenda or DPW though? I mean, I can do it.
I think it's a bylaw,
but...
so I would say it would be general government, right?
Okay.
Bylaw for the alternate side parking is bylaw.
Yeah, that's not, it doesn't fall under anything specific. I think it would be general government.
General government,
okay.
Yeah.
And I would also like to thank former Councilor Clements and Nash for attending with me a tour of United Lens. We were very surprised about the projects they do there. It's an amazing facility. The work they do there, the projects, it's just the technology they have, it's so advanced technology. It was just very mind-blowing to see that work being done in our town. So I would like to thank also United Lands for letting us tour the facility, and I hope everyone enjoyed their week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. First, I'd like to apologize for sometimes I get very passionate about things.
I apologize if I came back a little rough.
That's okay.
So.
But yeah,
I just
sometimes
apologize. We're all sorry.
Okay. So second, I just like to touch on something that you talked about during your announcements and the engagement with the community with the Southbridge, the holiday parade and the tree lighting and stuff. I have a friend that attended from out of town, and his perception of Southbridge over the years was different than when he left that night. He was just simply amazed with the involvement of the community and all the people that came together, and how it just all came together so smoothly, and what a really good time everyone was having. It really touched his heart. And his view just flipped after seeing that. It takes a village, and we have a really good village in this community. I like to thank Denise also, and her family, Maria, the Spinellis, Counselor Nicola was there helping. My daughter, yes, my daughter, was an elf the third year in a row, Mr. Adams. Last year she said she wasn't doing it, and this year, but she'll be an elf next year too, I'm sure. She just gets very cold up there. And it just the auxiliary, the police department, the fire department, the DPW, everyone, the community, all the citizens, all the children, it just all came together. And thank you to everyone. Southbridge Hotel and Conference Center, you know, they donate the cookies and the hot chocolate. Judy Ferguson, Village Photo, $5 for your professional photo. It's just an amazing, amazing, amazing experience. And I haven't been part of it the last couple of years as involved. And so, I mean, I miss it sometimes, yes, all that involvement, but she just does a fabulous job, and all those helpers that come out there and do everything. So thank you very much for all they do. Also, I'd like to mention, I'm really happy to hear that you're going to have Councilor Adams a meeting in regards to CDGB money. I'm not available December 6th. I am not available December 6th. So if you have it on that Thursday.
I'm not available either. I'm
Oh,
in
okay.
Boston.
I'm going to be in Boston too.
So yes.
I'm going to see Pentacontex. So
That was the only day I had available. Sorry, I'm kidding.
So I'm not available for anything that evening. So, but I'm really happy to hear you having that. So I greatly appreciate it. And I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. There is one thing I'd like to mention. I think I mention this every year when it gets cold. It's down by the 600 block going down towards or coming up from Big Bunny area. That one block, there's that drainage that comes out, and I think it's owned by the hospital. It's just like all ice again. So I think it's from the hospital, drainage from the hospital. I think they take care of that. So if you could just remind them to maintain that. It's just on that one stretch of sidewalk. It's very icy when it gets cold, and the ice just builds up. So it just needs to be salted, it needs to be chipped away. Something needs to be done for that, because that's a danger, especially for the children that walk to school in our community. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to also add to everyone else's comments about this past weekend's holiday vision stuff and say thanks to Denise. But I also wanted to say thanks to people behind the scenes, especially Jillian, who spends so much time going there, like during the course of the year, fixing little things and doing all kinds of stuff that most people never see. So she's got so much done up there, and so that I think the whole project would be much harder and much more complex without her behind the scenes doing that stuff. So I just wanted to say thanks to her for that. And from what I had heard while I was there is that there were about 1,000 people who showed up this past weekend, as opposed to something like 750 or 800 last year. So it's growing, and that's really nice to hear. I also wanted to comment on the fact that last week also was the bonfire over at Southbridge High at McMahon Field, and the turnout wasn't as good as it has been in previous years, because unfortunately it came out after the game and we got trounced. But it was nice to see the people who did turn out, and I wanted to say thanks to the police and fire department people who were there to supervise it and make sure it didn't get out of hand. Unfortunately, it wasn't windy or anything, so that wasn't really an issue. But it was nice and warm. That's always good. And also I wanted to just announce a couple of quick things. One is for people who are into the arts in our community. One is that this weekend Gateway is doing It's a Wonderful Life at the Elm Street Church. It's a radio version of the play on the 30th, December 1st and 2nd, 7:30 on the 30th and the 1st, and 2 p.m. on the 2nd. And also, if you're into alternative music, and if you remember the band The Curtain Society, who had its origins here in town, they're celebrating their 30th anniversary on December 1st at a place called Bull Mansion in Worcester. If you're into that and you want to get back to do a little of late 80s and early 90s nostalgia, you can go check that out. And that's all I had. And also, the next meeting date will be Monday, December 3rd, here in the chambers at 7 p.m.
Okay. So that's next Monday. Yep. Just a quick follow-up to what Councilor Morales says, just to announce, alternate side parking does start the end of this week.
Right.
So just a reminder that it is alternate side parking. So thank you for reminding us on that. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous, all present. Thank you. Thank you and have a good evening.